The Hulst World Cup that happened on November 27th marked the return of Matthew van der Poel and Tom Pidcock to UCI World Cup racing. And I know that I was excited to see the return of van der Poel, how he's going to do after taking such a long time off from racing, and then you butt him up against Pidcock, and we're just excited to see that battle. However, it is kind of a bummer for guys like Eli Isobert and Laurens Sweeck, who have been battling for the win at most of these races throughout the entire cross season, and then you sprinkle in a couple world champs, former world champs, and then all of a sudden these guys are barely even getting on the podium. Kind of a bummer to be the guy a month ago and now you're not the guy. Now the first thing to note is to realize how far back van der Poel started on the grid. I think he was third or fourth row, and you find yourself thinking like, man, I guess he's going to be battling through the entire field throughout this race. And he might make it to the front, maybe not, I don't know. It's a tall order, but if anybody's going to do it, it's probably going to be him. And by the time they make it to the first turn, you've got Pidcock in about 10th place, and van der Poel really isn't that far behind him, but he still is pretty mid-packish. And right from the beginning of the race, you can tell the immediacy and the desperateness that van der Poel has to get to the front of that race. You can see even in this short clip him full out sprinting, and then in the very next turn you see him cut off his own teammate into this tricky U-turn and cause a huge pileup, which I guess van der Poel isn't quite worried about making friends with people because that wasn't really a polite thing to do. But if you're van der Poel and you're there to win the race, who cares if you cut off a few people to get to the front? And with that move, he's already made himself up to the top 10 and he's on Pidcock's wheel, and you start to see that he's not as urgent to get to the front. I think he's starting to settle in a little bit more as he finds himself near the front now. Check out this section where van der Poel decides to take the B line, which was probably slower than the A line, but because he's such a powerful rider, he's able to pass 4 more people just by taking a different line from them. This is a good thing to know when you're doing your pre-ride. You want to be looking at sections of the course where maybe you could take a slower line but pass people on that first lap. Definitely something to check out when you're pre-riding. At this point, I'm thinking, dang, Matthew van der Poel is back. Look at how flawless he looks. We're 4 minutes in, and he's already gone from the 4th row to 4th place. Come on. I wonder if that was a Belgian instead of a fellow Dutchman, what would have happened? And with this, we see the first glimmer of weakness from Matthew van der Poel. But it's just one little mistake. He just clipped a wooden stake and went OTB. You know, it happens to everybody. He's back, man. He's back. He's fine. Don't worry about it. Another mistake? Oh, that's weird. I wasn't expecting that to happen. Did he maybe go too hard on that first lap and now he's kind of paying for that? You know, in NBA, in the 4th quarter, that's when you see the most injuries because that's when the players are the most fatigued and they're not focused as well as they were earlier in the game. And I think something similar may be happening to van der Poel here, where if you look at all the riders on the lap 1, he definitely put out more energy than any other rider. He had to attack more, he had to sprint more just to get to the front of the race. And so I would assume that right now his heart rate is pretty jacked. And I think there's this correlation of the higher your heart rate is, the chances of mistakes also increases. And I've created this chart to help us visualize this because I don't even think it's a linear progression. I think there's a certain point, and we would call this the in the red or over the limit zone. When you hit this limit, your chances of mistakes increases dramatically. I think is what is happening to Vanderpoel right now. Two things are happening in this little clip. We see Pidcock looking very strong, very smooth, and he overtakes a rider to take the lead. Now in the background, you see Vanderpoel skidding all over the place and not looking so smooth, and it makes you think, is Vanderpoel the hare and Pidcock was the tortoise? Because on lap 1, Pidcock didn't look that great, but now he's winning, and Vanderpoel is going backwards. Classic tortoise and the hare. The off-camber of death, at least for Michael Ventura now. Whoa, Sweek. That was sweet, but close. Good save. And with that one little mistake by Lars van der Haar, and Pidcock and Laurens Sweek have a gap, and you're thinking game over. Pidcock has got this one wrapped up. MVDP now back in 8th place. He was in 2nd place just one lap ago. Now he's in 8th. Things are not looking good. Pidcock starts to get a little bit of a gap on Sweek, and what's this? Vanderpoel already back in 5th place with a big surge up to the front. Is he back? Is he back? I don't know. MVDP takes that passing line again, and with that, he's in 3rd place. I think he's back, y'all. I think he's back. And just like that, it is all back together. Anyone's race. Passing line doesn't quite work this time. The sauces have been struggling in this race. Check out this montage of crashes. Little mistake by Pidcock. Vanderpoel overtakes. You're thinking, uh-oh, I think he's back. Is he back for good? Can he hold it? Let's see. From the looks of it, it seems as if MVDP is going hard to create that separation. Not getting much of a gap until Pidcock makes another little mistake and stretches out that separation. Is it enough? Five seconds. Oh, Vanderpoel dodges that old dude trying to take a picture. He must be a relative of a cardboard lady sign from the tour last year. Man, this off-camber is getting slick. It's taking some victims today. MVDP looking better and better. Pidcock looking worse and worse. I don't see this one coming back together, y'all. Doubles the gap, 12 seconds. Uh-oh, another MVDP mistake. This is not typical. Pidcock does a pretty good job at staying on the gas and doesn't let the gap get too out of control, but I don't really think he's gaining any time either. Pidcock ends up breaking a wheel on the last lap, and I was pretty bummed when he decides to pull the plug on the race, because even if he did have to run an entire half a lap, he would have still probably finished top 10. And I don't know about y'all, but I'd love to finish in the top 10 of a UCI World Cup. Another little mistake from MVDP, but I think without a chasing Pidcock, he's in the clear. MVDP takes the victory. You've got Lawrence Sweek only 15 seconds back, which is pretty impressive considering that Pidcock was only 12 seconds back before his mechanical, so good for him. And then Eli Isbert squeezes into that third spot after some pretty ugly moments early in the race. Is MVDP back? I think he is. I think today was kind of ugly at moments, and he had some pretty big mistakes, but he still pulled off the win, and I think things are only going to keep getting better and better for him as he gets into the groove of racing. It'll be really exciting to see what happens when Wout shows up. One last thing to note, and a big takeaway from watching this race, was how good Van der Poel really is. I mean, he is so above the other riders in both fitness and ability that he was able to make a handful of pretty big mistakes throughout this race and still get the victory. That just shows you how good he is and how big of a margin of error he really does have. I think of my own racing and how many times I'll make the smallest little mistake and it'll take me out of the race because I can't recover from that mistake. And guys like Van der Poel and Wout have such a big engine and such high ability that they can make mistakes. There is a larger margin of error and they can still finish really well.